kata of atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me, sense of woe, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me, sense of woe, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me, sense of woe, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge in Sangha. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. This precious human life, rarely encountered, is easily lost. Now that I have life and opportunity, may I practice the Dharma wholeheartedly. Mahayana Refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. Invocation of the lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers. For the lineage of teachers before them, I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, may their vows be completely realized, and may I cultivate these perfections with their guidance. 7 practices of the Bodhisattva. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings. Generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred. Being close to some and distant from others, how wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from suffering and the causes of suffering. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. Please stand for the Heart Sutra on page 4. Great Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva practicing deep Prajna Paramita clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form, sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on to no thinking, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so on to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation, path, no wisdom, and no attainment, since there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva lives by Prajna Paramita with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear, far beyond elusive thinking. Right here is nirvana, all Buddhas of past, present, and future nature, live by prajna paramita, attaining anyuttara samyak sambodhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the prajna paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and proclaim gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhisvaha gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhisvaha gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhisvaha. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. All that is and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere and devoted practice for the many beings of the 6 worlds and dedicate it in grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the Great Heartland Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these merits to all those who are suffering by injustice, cruelty, calamity, and war, as well as Bruce Works, Stephen Mays, Soke, Roger, Debbie, and Wayne Coleman. May they heal, may they have peace and healing, as well as Connie, Michael, Pauline Fries, Ella Fitzgerald Wyke, Shirley Nitz, Graham, Father Cryan, Susan Armstrong, Cindy, and Griffin at the time of their death, as well as those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, and those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattvas, Please be seated for Zazen. Please stand for coming. At the sound of the clappers, the first and third row will turn to your right. Second and fourth row will turn to your left. recite the Sangha Covenant on page 8 of the liturgy book. We, the Daishin Kokoji Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others. Please be seated for this morning's talk. Sit comfortably and turn so that you can make eye contact with the teacher. And if you're sitting in a chair, please move off to the side so you're not blocking anyone else's eye contact with the teacher. In a moment, we'll chant the Gatha on opening the sutra, also on page 8. Gatha on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Do you ever have one of those nights where you're very fitfully sleeping and you're tossing and turning and you wake up and realize you're all tangled in your bed sheets? Yes. It's quite like that. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Sensei and I were tossing around, some ideas to share today, and it occurred to both of us how amazing it is to have the right circumstances to practice. And it's in particular relief because, as many here will know, last week we made, I think, a wise, data-driven decision to suspend in-person gatherings for the week. Right? We had a couple of important folks who are around a lot, have some COVID, and so the decision was made. Let's just not. Especially in light of the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. We gathered with my mom and dad in their 70s and 80s. And so I think for many of us, it was just, it was a good maneuver, right? It's a good move. I'm grateful that our community is open to data and science and experts and taking care of each other. And at the same time, oh, wow, that feeling of not being able to be in each other's presence. Did anybody else kind of feel that? Right? And it's amazing if you think about it, right? I mean, we spent, 2 years, give or take, in that space of really not being able to gather, and how quickly it just fades, right? And becomes something that we just assume until suddenly, nope, no morning practice, no Wednesday evening practice, no Sunday practice. We'll live stream something. Better than nothing. But how easy is it to take for granted when we are in this perfectly aligned space that allows us to actually have the chance to dig in?
So it doesn't take much, less than a week, for me to basically forget everything. Who I am, what I'm doing, that I know anybody at all. Some people are nodding their heads. I think there's a certain kind of subset of us humans that are sort of wired that way. And I happen to be one of them. So it's always a bit of a kind of like a, oh, right, the temple, the people. Practicing in community. Oh, wait, this temple is not just a building. There's like all this like incredible spiritual energy here that is carrying us, and how lucky I am to be here. And I just immediately get so much information and so much, I feel so uplifted by being in your presence. And I know you all feel the same, being in each other's presence. So just to truly not take that for granted. I feel so carried and so loved and so cared for, just being in this room with you, and just naturally extending that to all of you as well. It just seems like the most normal thing in the world. Yet, we can't take it for granted at all.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the inheritances that we have from our Tibetan tradition is the teaching of Tsongkhapa. And to situate it quickly, there was a moment in Tibet where the culture was awash in all kinds of different scriptures, different sutras, all kinds of different teachings. And people started to say, what the hell? This is just all over the place. It's crazy. We need to make some kind of an organized way of engaging with these Buddhist teachings. And so Tsongkhapa and Pabanka and some others made a kind of a cut and paste trajectory of study of the teachings of the Buddha, and as they had migrated up from India. And one of the essential beginning points is to appreciate the fact that you are in a position where you have the auspicious circumstances to be able to practice. And there's actually, it might seem like kind of an inordinate amount of time spent on this, but it's very easy to be taken for granted. Now, one of the things Tsongkhapa did is he would grab different chunks of the sutras as he had access to them, quote them, and then elaborate, perhaps a little bit. This is from the 8 conditions to be taken that you need to be free of in order to be able to practice. To be reborn with wrong views. To be reborn in a place where there is no Sangha and the Buddha has not yet appeared. To be reborn as an animal, or as a hungry ghost, or as a hell-dwelling being. To be an uncultured and illiterate person in a border region with no access to the teachings. To be unable to hear the teachings, or to speak, or to see. Or to be reborn as a deity of incredibly long life. Any of these are to be afflicted in conditions which are not auspicious for practice. I mean, of the list, a deity with long life sounds pretty good. But even there, and of course we can take all of these with a grain of mythical salt. The point is, it's very easy to miss. It's very easy to be in a place where there's no opportunity to practice, or at least it feels that way. For example, to be reborn with wrong views. How many of us, how many Homo sapiens are born in a situation where we are basically indoctrinated into some kind of tribalism, some kind of nationalism, some kind of rigid God concept or whatever, that immediately writes off the vast majority of our fellow Homo sapien creatures. Instantly, or off the bat, they're all fallen or infidels or going to hell or what have you. This is actually an abuse. To be born in such a way that you're afflicted by such views. I mean, imagine if you're born in communist China at the height of the Cultural Revolution, and you have Mao's Red Book, and this is the truth you have to memorize and learn. Very difficult. And that's just one example of many. It can come in any flavor, wrapped in any flag. Or to be reborn in a place where there is no Buddha's teaching, where it's simply not there to be encountered. That sucks. And what is the Buddha's teaching, for those who may not know? It's simply elucidating suffering, the causes of suffering, and how to do something about it. So imagine yourself being born in a place where no one has any idea how to actually undo dukkha, or even to be able to recognize it. I mean, it doesn't matter how well off a person may be in such a situation. The hamster wheel of suffering is still turning. As an animal, a hungry ghost, or a hell being, each of these are pointing to particular styles of imprisonment. When we inhabit an animal realm, we're purely moving on instinct, toward pleasure, away from pain, like bugs. When you and I are in that space, very difficult to practice, impossible. A hungry ghost is an image that depicts when we are in a place of complete obsession and addiction and craving that cannot actually be satisfied. when we are Gollum endlessly pursuing the One Ring, can't think of anything else. When we're in that situation, it's impossible to practice, very difficult. And we've all been there. Right? This is not other people. Hell being when your mind is so filled with rage and anger and hatred that you can see nothing else. This is not some distant realm elsewhere. This is within your own mind and your own heart and your own body. You can conjure this. To be a person that lives, and it's funny the way it's written here, as an uncultured person in a border region. But if you think about it, being close to a place of learning in a time wherein there's actually space for you to learn, like on the long scope of Homo sapien existence, say we've been around 250,000 years, depending what scientists you listen to, maybe 5,000 of those years we've had writing and culture. This is a teeny little fraction. And even within that, say, give it maybe 10,000 years of culture, to be in a place where you actually have the opportunity to learn and to study and to learn something beyond just the endless search for food, right? Most all of our genetic ancestors spent most all of their waking lives in pursuit of food and fighting, right? But you, not so much. It can happen again. There are Homo sapiens right now that are living in environments wherein injustice, cruelty, calamity, and war are making their environment such that they have very difficult time to practice. But at least at the moment, you, we have the auspicious occasion. We actually have the option to come and gather together. It's actually quite amazing if you tune into it for a second. To be a person without the correct cognitive capacities and abilities, or to be a deity of incredibly long life. This one is fun. The heaven realm, this is where you're so, imagine if you just lived forever and ever and ever, and you had this beautiful, wonderful heaven realm, and it's all, harps and wonderful things, and you can eat all the treats you want and not gain a pound. My version of heaven. And in such a wonderful space, where would your concern for others arise? What need would you have for compassion? All you're doing is a sophisticated indulging of pleasure. You're not likely to practice much in that setting. So for us, we have all of this bandwidth is actually in place, if you reflect on it for a moment. And even just this 1 week of saying, we're not going to be able to meet, let it be a good reminder not to take for granted the fact that we have the choice. Some days easier than others, but we have the choice to actually show up. Because, you never really know. You never actually know when the last time you'll enter the temple is. You really don't know that. Some of you may have heard in the dedication Ella Fitzgerald White and maybe wondered about that. That was our pug. Ella Pug. Great pug. She was a wonderful pug. We named her Ella Fitzgerald, right? And, she passed away. We kind of knew it was coming, quite elderly. But even so, I didn't know when the last time I would hold her would be. When I gave her the last treat that I would ever give her in this lifetime, I didn't know that that was the moment. And it was pretty clear she was getting ready to check out. But still, that exact time you don't know. You understand? You don't know when the last time you'll hold your child is, because they become too big and your back becomes too weak. And they don't want it anymore. No one sends you a little warning note. Guess what? This is the one. So in Zazen, what we do actually when you sit, you should completely let go of every single thing, including all your identity, who you think you are and what matters to you and what music you like or don't or whatever, what tragedies or relations you've experienced, whatever it is you hold on to or run from, drop all of it. Completely die. Just merge into the breath. There's nothing but the breath, or the koan, or whatever your practice is. Just completely let everything go. And stay awake. Stay pristinely tuned in. Don't just drift off or shut down, but let go of everything. And then when the bell rings and you rise, it's like you're back to life. And here we are, again with opportunity. In this way, we can maintain contact with the preciousness of our situation and not take it for granted, but really use it, because you never know.
I don't have much to add to that, actually. So this business of being born in a place where the teachings are available and not taking that for granted. Actually, our daily home liturgy, which I know that every single person here who has spent any amount of time is actually doing daily, even as a community, we didn't always have that. That in itself is kind of a rarity and a gift that was given to us by the lineage. Sometimes that's called a terma, where something's hidden, some aspect of the Dharma is hidden and someone finds it somewhere, or is given in this secret time at this secret place. And our daily home liturgy has that flavor to it. When you actually let your mind just sort of steep in that daily home liturgy, what you're doing is allowing the entire Buddhist canon to wash over you and be present to you. All of the Buddhist teachings are present in that daily home liturgy. When you combine that with sitting daily at home, you are actually like being the vessel of carrying the Dharma forward into the world. Carrying the Dharma forward into being at home because you can't go to the temple. Carrying the Dharma forward when you're doing the dishes. You know, people write all the time and ask, well, how do I make the Dharma manifest in my life? How do I just make it really show up? And it's like, it's always showing up. The Dharma is not something you can manipulate and make it like dance at will on command. It's always here. We just have to continually kind of remember it and remind ourselves of our Dharma practice. And fortunately for us, we are so, so lucky not only to have the temple, but also to have our, our altars at home, where our altars are connected to the temple altar. So when we go to our altar and we make our offerings, we are immediately energetically connecting ourselves to each other, even though we can't be together practicing. And this is, again, another just rare, amazing gem of a gift that we've been given. And especially for people at home who are having trouble practicing at home, you can't get your butt on that cushion. You just can't, right? Even if you go to your altar and you just light the candle and the incense, make a bow, take a breath, you are connecting yourself to practice. The best, of course, is to participate in the life of the temple. The schedule, actually, of the temple is what carries you. Best to come to Sunday service because the temple's open. Come to sesshin, where you can just totally immerse yourself in this letting go that Roshi was talking about. Because you can't really get the taste and the feeling of being carried, of totally trusting and totally surrendering to not having to create a self, surrendering to not having to create a self that bumps around in the world. Unless you're practicing this letting go, kind of over and over and over again. Really what we're practicing is trusting ourselves, trusting over and over and over again.
You know, it's one of the concerns that we hear from students sometimes is how can you practice when ... How can you practice when the banks are all collapsing? 2008. How can you practice when the world towers were just hit? 9/11. I remember being at the monastery at Zen Mountain at the retreat when we were invading Iraq, Kuwait, defending Kuwait, I think it was. How can you practice when the Vietnam War is raging? Actually, literally every point in my life, there's always, if you put a pin there, there's always some real serious problem going on. And not just my life. So today, you look at the news and you think, what the hell's happening with our government and what's going on abroad and what's happening here and what's happening there. And there's always this temptation to feel like, you know, I can't practice now because there's too much problems in the world, or I can't practice now because there's too much problems in my life, or I can't practice now because my sister's right? And the thing is to realize that actually there will always be challenges like that. But if you're fortunate enough to have a circumstance where it's possible, really you should practice. Because when you practice, you're not just practicing for yourself. I mean, it's possible to practice just for yourself. That's a possibility. It's not really acceptable, but it's possible. And it's okay to start there, frankly. Like, I am in such turmoil, I am in such chaos, my mind stream is so gooked up and full of problems that I need help. And the Dharma is perfectly willing and good to meet you there. And that's noble, and you should do that. However, once you get somewhat okay, then you kind of forget about it and go back. This is a mistake. Well, there are people like that we see once every so often, kind of like Halley's Comet. They orbit around, and they'll come into the orbit of the temple when things are really intense, and they'll practice for a while, things will calm down, and then they'll forget about practice until, 3 years later, it comes around again and around and again. Better to practice for yourself when that's what's necessary, but then not be satisfied with that. Now, there are some people that only practice for others. They're always thinking about others and everyone else and other beings, and this is really wonderful, but this is also partial. Interestingly enough, one must practice for oneself and for others, both. This is actually the Mahayana way. You can't really be of use to others until you've had some depth yourself. But if you're only just concerned about yourself, then you're missing everyone else. So sometimes people will have a particular social cause that they'll feel very strongly about, and then be very upset that the Sangha isn't entirely engaged in whatever that very worthy social cause may be. Soup kitchen or pillows for hospice, or it's longer than my sleeve, for God's sake, the list. But there are some people that just do that stuff and don't actually sit, don't actually practice. There are some Sanghas that I think have gotten so far involved in social causes that they've forgotten the basics of the Dharma itself. And then those Sanghas don't sustain. So we need to actually have both. You need to actually be able to recognize the preciousness of your life, that you have the ability to encounter the Dharma and to dig in for yourself and for everyone else, for the whole world. And it's not a one and done. It's a constant depth. The realization of your awakening is the realization of your own living and dying itself. Don't miss any of it.
So if you're doing the daily home liturgy daily, you're catching all that. Just to let you know. You wonder, oh my God, how am I going to do that? It's already there for you. I have spoken.
May it be so. It's great to see everybody together again.
We'll conclude with the Bodhisattva vows on page 8.
Delusions are in exile.
irascible, I vow to embody it. Thank you, everyone. That concludes this morning's service. Do we have announcements?
We have so many announcements today. Hello, everyone. My name is Seth Chow. First announcement that I have today is that our t-shirt store is now open for business. All members should have received an email last week. If you didn't, please let me know. But the online store to order the two, they're always limited edition whenever we do this, so probably the only chance to get these two shirts. One has the Master Yourself Be Free calligraphy by Rinsen Roshi on the back, with the logo on the front, and the other one has the updated actual gasho emoji on it, the blue and yellow emoji. So check that out. We have all sorts of sizes on there. So and there was a little disclaimer with the email that each design has to have at least 12 orders for them to go through. I think we're going to get that no problem if we're selling shirts. So you know, that's that. Let's see. So thank you, Daitoku. Thank you, Kinko, for prepping our food today. Really, really appreciate that. Today is a pasta meal with some fresh sourdough bread. Thank you, Craig, for making the sourdough bread. So that's new for us. We have a sourdough starter that we've gotten from Kokai here, and that is kind of become a thing. So if you'd like some sourdough starter to take home at some point and join in the temple sourdough experience at home for yourself, just let me know and I'll be able to get you some at some point. I'm also looking for a few volunteers today to help in the kitchen, help us close up. If you could raise your hand if you're so inclined to practice generosity today. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll be tapping those who didn't raise their hand later. So, yeah. Special thanks to John who helped us out before service. Thank you so much. If you'd like to continue to practice and deepen this practice of everyday practice of generosity, as Doan was talking about, just doing the dishes, as she said, we have a lot of activities that the Sentient Beings, which is our affinity group for the kitchen practice, that we do, including our monthly pasta-thon and all sorts of other cooking. We have a lot of fun together. It's quite a lively group, I think. So please see me after service if you'd like to become a member of our affinity group. And I'm sure there's another announcement, but I will leave it to whoever's next.
Speaking of affinity groups, there's a group. Thank you. There's a group around here called the Temple Tenders, and they're folks that. That's what this is. I know. See, it's fun to get involved with this. So, yeah, so the announcement is there's no more Temple Tenders group. All right? The name of the group now is... What's the name of the group? No, the name of the group now is the Temple Samu Crew. Is that it?
Yes, the Samu Crew.
The Samu Crew, not Temple, just Samu.
Samu Crew, I think.
Okay. But anyway...
The Samu Crew.
We're moving. Okay. So anyhow, that's the new name, the Samu Group, and anybody can be a part of this. If you feel like you want to do anything to help this place run, dusting corners, straightening cushions, sweeping floors, whatever, just get in contact with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Announce the date that the eye ceremony changed, right? So we didn't do it last week.
The eye-opening ceremony, which was canceled last week, will now be December 17th, in a few weeks. Bring your home Buddhas and make that connection. Thank you, everyone. Please restore the Zendo.